Welcome to Stand-Up Memories. I'm Peter Bales. There is Jackie the Joke Man Martling.
I think at the age of 74, we can drop that and just the Joke Man Martling. No, no, Jackie Martling.
You are the Joke Man.
Let's
though.
hang up the Joke
All
Man.
right.
If they don't know it by now,
You got it.
Most people
Jackie Martling. You want to go back to John Martling? That would be...
I'm on TikTok, and you wouldn't believe how many people. Who is this old guy? Why have we never seen this guy? How long has this guy been in mothballs? Of course, I block the people that say, I thought you were dead. I also block the people that say, he is dead. You got to look close. You know?
That's why you block me.
But of course. But I'm ripping it up. They're loving the jokes.
All right, I love it. Even though...
TikTok.com/@Jackie Martling. I could be kicked off TikTok by the time this thing airs. Because when's this going to air? 2024.
It
right?
is.
Right.
It's going in the can. Now listen.
I'm not sure you can say that anymore. In Florida, you could go to jail for saying that. I swear to God, you don't read the paper.
I do read the paper.
Well, why don't you have the computer?
All right. I should be online.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
I'll finish your introduction.
Well, I think you are now Jackie Martling, but you will still be, for many, many people, the Joke Man because you are the Joke Man. Right? Wink, wink, wink. And I wanted to ask you if ever in your entire long career, somebody came up to you after a show and told you a joke that you hadn't heard or amazingly you could actually use on stage. Because I've seen people, you are so polite because people come up to you.
The answer is yes, 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 and yes.
Really?
Go ahead, finish with the compliment.
No, I'm complimenting you because people tell you these jokes that you've heard and they're sometimes not that funny and you're very nice about it, but has it ever paid off?
So often people get up at a show and start a joke and I have to correct them, correct the setup for them. And then they go, well, do you know it? I'm like, it's corrected. The truth is yes, and I remember so many of the instances. I was at Sundance Film Festival for the first time, and my good friend Tom Bernard is the president of Sony Pictures Classics. He's a great guy, but he's also a fellow pothead, which is where we connected. Huge fan of the Grateful Dead, and the guy's he's famous. He's probably long dead. This is 20 years ago. Was the famous violin or fiddler for the Grateful Dead, and him and another guy were performing live because they just put out. His daughter had just done a documentary on him, so we went to the documentary. Maybe he wasn't even alive still, and it was so packed. And we were walking, trying to get out of this, Grateful Dead type. This is in Sundance, and I'm in a little theater, and it's just jammed. And as I went past this guy, we were literally nose to nose. He goes, "Joke Man, I got a joke for you." And in the crowded people trying to get past, I stood there and listened to his joke. And I hadn't heard it before, and I've told it every night since. And
Really?
It's a joke about the three guys are stuttering, and
You got it. I mean, the people at home, we got it. It's such a great joke. And I got to tell you.
The joke is a girl in a bar, and there's three guys next to her, and they're all yakking, and they're all stuttering. And she turns to the three guys and says, "Listen, if any of you guys could tell me where you're from without stuttering, I'll give you a big, wet French kiss." She says, "Where are you from?" And the guy goes, "Philadelphia." She says, "You're a loser." She says, "Next guy, where are you from?" He says, "Tampa." She says, "You're a loser." She says, "Next guy, where are you from?" And he goes, "Miami." She says, "Very good." She pulls open his mouth and sticks in her tongue, and she's French kissing him and licking him, and he pulls away and he goes, "Beach."
That is a classic.
But I mean, it's a long joke to be standing in the middle of a crowd, and he told it, and I roared. He said, "You don't have to kiss my ass." I said, "No, I really didn't know that joke." There's versions of that, but not, and it was so perfect, and it is a killer every time. And I think we did this joke already on the show about Mark Hudson had a show at the Iridium called Thursdays on the Hudson. And Mark Hudson was one of the Hudson brothers that were the summer replacement show for Cher. And they had great stories because they had every superstar in the world on, it was NBC, I think. And he was so funny, but he does these shows where he has an old timer, like the night I went up, I think he had Billy J. Kramer, who's like a local guy.
Billy J. Kramer, yes.
And Billy was up there, and a couple of, everybody plays with Mark, and Mark is so talented and so great. He's unbelievable, and he always had me come up and tell jokes if I'm there. That's my curse and it's nice to be recognized if I go somewhere, but if I go somewhere, I know I'm going to have to go on stage. So in your mind, what am I going to say? What jokes am I going to do? So it's not really a night out. And so I went up on stage and I had a killer time, and then we're all in the green room having a great time. And when we came out, there were so many famous people in the show that the crowd hadn't dispersed. The place was still packed. I walk out, and this guy came up to me. He said, "Jackie, I know you heard them all. I've been a fan for 40 years. I don't want to waste your time, but I got to tell you a joke." And like I always have, nothing special about this guy. I've listened to every joke because you never know.
Right.
And this guy told me a joke. I tell this in my act that was too dirty for me to use on stage, but you could tell it on the radio, and you could tell it to your 5-year-old kid.
Huh.
The reason I can't use it on stage is the same reason I don't really do like much Jesus stuff. Because if you're rolling and rolling, boom, 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 you can't say anything that makes them think twice.
Right.
You tell a Jesus joke and they laugh. If they even think for a second, boy, I hope I don't get hit by lightning, or whatever hang up it is.
Right.
Or if somebody at the table is uncomfortable, they're all gone for the first line of the next joke, which puts, right? And this joke is so disgusting that after people laugh, if they're like, ooh, and they're thinking about it, you lose them. So I don't use the joke on stage, but it's the guy. The girl calls the doctor and she says, "Doc, I have diarrhea. Can I take a bath?" And he says, "If you got enough." Which is beyond disgusting, but it's a poop joke.
It is.
Which you can do all day and all night. You can't talk about Jews or blacks, but if you want to talk about going to the bathroom, you can have a field day for the rest of your life.
Young comedians take note. Simple is best. And you get that right away. It's funny, and you move on to the next one. I love it.
That is such a funny joke. And I love the introduction to that. And there's been a few along we might have done this already. When I was a kid, you talk about this growing up on Long Island, the thought of ever playing golf was the furthest thing. Like the idea of going to Disneyland or the idea of getting on an airplane. I'm a poor kid from East Norwich. And even the thought of getting in a golf cart, I'd forget about playing golf. How neato keno would that be to get in that little thing, right? So years later, I get invited to play golf at Muttontown Country Club.
All right. Tony Place. Very Tony.
Beautiful place that, if you know the history of it, Jane Fonda and Peter Fonda and their mother lived there for a certain amount of time because it belonged to Claire Booth Luce's husband. You'd have to look it up.
All right.
But it was a huge mansion. Like most of the country clubs in Long Island were huge mansions.
Used to be mansions.
And I didn't date Jane. I was too busy. But they invited me to come play golf there, and it wasn't even an outing. This guy was just a fan, and he met me at an outing. He said, "You want to come play a round of golf at Muttontown? We'll have lunch." And I'm like, wow. So it was sitting in the veranda of this country club in my hometown, and I'm like, this is too crazy. And a guy sees me. And I'm sitting with this guy, Gary. I still remember Gary and a couple other guys. And this other guy comes over, "Oh, wow, Jackie the Joke Man. I got to try a joke on you." And the guy, Gary, got upset. He said, "What are you doing? This guy's my guest. He's not here as a comedian or as a Howard Stern show guy. He's here as my guest to play golf and have a few laughs. I don't want you to bother him. He doesn't want to hear." And I'm like, "Relax. I listened to you." No. Just go away. And I said, "Listen, you got to understand, Gary. I listen every time somebody has a joke. You have to, because I was always the last guy standing at the bar or at the party or at the pot party or the drunken or whatever it was, and everybody's telling jokes. But then, and as the years went by, it was less and less where I hit home, something hit pay dirt.
Yeah.
But when I do,
It's
cause
worth it.
celeb, right?
Yeah.
And I was so excited. So just let the guy, and the guy tells me a joke. And it was not only hysterical, but I couldn't believe that I had never heard it before. And I honestly had never heard it. It slipped through the cracks. And he tells me the joke, so I roar. And Gary's like, come on, man, you don't have to pretend. And I'm yelling at him, no, I didn't know the joke. I took the guy's name, I sent him a pile of stuff. His joke was, what would you call a Jewish vagina?
What?
A cant. And I roared. And I'm like, how did I never hear? I'm 60 years old living on Long Island amongst the Yiddish population of the world.
Now, I wanted to ask you about celebrities and performing before celebrities. You're going to have much more on this than I am, but I want to get this off my chest. The comic strip, the early 80s. I was on the schedule, which was like striking gold. You've made it in comedy. But I'm going on fairly late in the show. And into the comic strip walks Grease era Olivia Newton-John in tight leather pants, the most beautiful woman I had ever seen up to that point in my life. And she goes in and she sits down alone in the comic strip and is watching the show. And the comics are
I remember the night I dropped
beyond.
her off.
Oh, you dropped her off. The comics are, I can't wait to get on. And I had to wait for 4 comics before I got on. And it's excruciating. Oh, she's still there. She's laughing. Oh, Olivia Newton-John. And the comics are getting off. Oh, she loved me. She was smiling right at me. I think she digs me. So finally, she's sitting in there, and it's my turn, and I get introduced. And I walk up on stage, and I see where she's sitting, and I look at her. Hi, folks. How you doing? And before I could start my first joke, she stands up and walks out. And I have never gotten over that. I was crushed. It's a little odd when there are celebrities in your audience.
And she probably had to go somewhere. It was probably not her fault. But I'm sure she'd be thrilled if she knew that you told that story 3 times on the show so far.
Did I tell that story on the show?
At least 3 times.
I'm looking at Nicole.
I was not going to stop you. It is so fun. When I had to do a show at the Friars Club, a bunch of comics, and Jerry Stiller. I think I told this one already too. So you can Jerry Stiller and Ann Mira was sitting at my feet, and talk about intimidation. And I'm up there telling my stupid jokes, and I killed. We're only doing 10 or 12 minutes each, and when I was done, Jerry Stiller came up to me and said, we met before. We met in Montreal, but I never got to really talk to you. It's very great what you do. Do you realize that each of your jokes is like a small play with characters and a whole plot? And I'm like, I'm just thrilled. He had me with, I smiled at what you did, and I hugged him. It was like the greatest. But he could have come up and said, "That's some really stupid crap." Listen, I think we're going to take a break right now and wait till next week. We'll be back next week because I'm so afraid that he's going to tell the Olivia Newton-John story again. I have a really good premise of something I want to ask him about. But you saw how he went on, and I didn't get a chance to do any of my stories. So when we come back, we will lead with with a tale you have not heard yet. And I'll give you a clue. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Yep, it's about the Rolling Stones.
Hey, a new episode of Standup Memories every Wednesday.
How exciting is that?
Starring me, Peter Bales, and right here, Jackie the Joke Man, Martling.
Please follow us on social media. Search it out. What is it? MeSpace?
MySpace,
Your space?
TikTok, Instagram, Facebook.
Doodah, doodah.